Hey guys, welcome to Ben Wrenchin. My name's Ben, and today I'm wrenching on my 94 Chevy K1500. My tailgate latch quit working even after I replaced the handle. And so today I'm going to go ahead and replace the entire assembly. There really aren't too many parts to this thing, and a lot of this is really easy to take off. A few Phillips head screws for this cover. I need a panel popper to pop these out, and then we can get in there and change everything inside of here. There's a latch on each side, and mine just aren't working right. They open, but not all the way. The kit that I got came with everything I need to replace every part in this system. I've got a new latch for each side, a new handle that's all metal, which I would definitely suggest because I originally went with a plastic handle and it failed pretty much out of the box. A new cover for the handle because these break easily, and new rods to connect the latches to the handle. So it looks like a lot of parts, but it's actually pretty easy to change out. There's just a few Phillips screws for this cover. I'll get that off, and then there's just a couple of Torx screws holding in these latches. So it doesn't look too bad. I'm gonna go ahead and get this cover off and then work on getting those latches out, and we'll get the tailgate latch back to good. With all the screws out, I can use this trim removal tool to pop all of these rivets out. And with all those popped out, this one comes right off. And it looks like I could use a new cover because this piece is supposed to be glued onto the tailgate. But it works just fine the way it is, so I'm going to leave it for now. These screws here, as well as the screws on the latches, are a T40. Before I take these out, I need to take off the cover on the latch handle. I'm going to use the trim panel tool to get this out. Just get behind it and pry it out. These are cheap and they break pretty easily, so don't feel bad if you break it. And these are pretty short screws. I would recommend getting a magnetic screw holder so you can keep everything together. And with those screws out, now this is loose. Punch the rods out of the back, and then this is out. And now the rods are loose, so all I need to do is take off the latches on either side and pull these through. These just have 2 screws on them, and they're both T40. You want to go careful at first because these may be rusted out like mine are. But they still came out pretty well. And I'll have to remove this tailgate strap too, but it's also a T40. It's got a washer on the back of it that's rusted to it a little bit, so I can just twist that and get it off of there. And then I can get this screw out. I'll put this back on here so I don't lose it. And then this whole thing's ready to come out. I'll need to lift up on the rod as I pull this out so it doesn't get caught. And there's the whole thing. So I'll leave this here so I can compare it to the other part, but I want to go ahead and remove the one on the other side. All right, and with all that out, the tailgate will rest on the bumper, but you can support it if you don't want to put that much weight on the hinges. Looking at these two side by side, the new one looks really good. It did come with a new tailgate strap, which is nice, but it did not come with new hardware, so I'll have to reuse these bolts. But everything looks good. It moves smooth, so I think it's gonna work. The rod has got 2 different ends. This is the end that goes into the latch, and this end goes on the handle. So I'll just have to look at how this is in there and get it in there the same way. And if you turn it this way and slide it in, it goes in a lot easier. So I'll go ahead and take this old strap out. You can lift up this tab here and slide the screw underneath it, and then it'll pop out this side of the latch. Might need some WD-40 to get this out. So the head of the screw is swollen out with rust, and it's just not popping through there. So I'll use some pliers and grab onto this, and I can just turn it until it comes through. There we go. So I can put this screw into the new one, and it slides in a lot easier. And I'll just reattach this here. We'll slide the rod through here, line the latch up. And I'll start with this one since it's got the washer behind it. And of course, the head on the new screw is different. It's a giant Phillips head. So I've got a giant Phillips driver that I got out of my impact driver kit. So I'm gonna use that to tighten this up. I'll just get the screw started. I'm gonna leave it a little bit loose so I can line these screws up first. And I'll get these started as well. Tighten these down, and then I can finish tightening this one down too. This one's a lot easier to tighten if you take the pressure off of that strap. All right, and I've got that one installed. And so it's gonna be the same thing over here. I'll get this one installed and then we'll get the latch in. now I'm ready to get the new latch in. The first thing that I need to do is flip these, and I'll show you why once I get this installed. But I need to flip these around so that they come out the other side. And I'll just stick this through the slot so that the holes line up. And then I can get the screws started. I tighten them down by hand, but I'm not going to tighten them down all the way so I can make sure to get those latch rods in where they go. And after my latch rod fell out, I had to take the latch back out, and I realized that the reason that I've always had to flip those plastic pieces to get this facing the other way has to do with how these fit in here. So this can go in two different ways and either pull it this way or come in from the bottom and pull it that way. And that's going to determine which way this is facing. So when I replaced the handle before, I had to flip those because these rods were flipped. So I guess it does work both ways, but since it failed that way, I'm going to go ahead and flip these around and insert these through the bottom, and that way the latch rod faces backwards and those plastic retainers were in the correct position. So I'm going to try that and see if that helps this to not fall out again. And it fell out again, so to make sure that I don't have to install this a fourth time, I'll put a zip tie around here to make sure that this rod does not come back out again. And hopefully that doesn't prevent the latch from working the way that it's supposed to. But at this point, I just want to get it installed. So I think that should help. This is a lot more difficult to get it to come out. So I'll get this back in a third time and see if that works. At this point, my biggest concern is stripping these T40 screws because these are pretty rusted through. And I didn't get new ones for these latches, so I'm using the old ones. And as many times as I've taken them off and put them back on, I'm a little worried about stripping the heads on these. And this time the rod's still attached, and I can pull the latch, so I know I'm good there. I'm going to do the same to this side just to get it to match and also get a zip tie on it. So I originally had it through where it's coming through the front, but I think it's going to be better if it's coming through the back and has a zip tie holding it in place. So I'm going to try that. All right, now both of these work. So I can flip these back around the way that they were, and I will assume that that's why my latch handle wasn't working in the first place. Although it's weird because that's how it originally was, and so I know that it was working at one point like that, but it would make sense that this one came like this, and that's how it's supposed to go, with the latch rods going in the front like that. And after doing this a few times, I've learned that it helps to get this screw in just a little bit first to sandwich that plastic washer where it's supposed to be, and then get these screws in, start them both by hand, tighten them down the rest of the way, and then remove this screw, and that plastic washer is wedged in between that bracket and the tailgate. And then you can get the strap on there. Lift up on the tailgate a little bit to loosen up the slack, get this screw started, and then you can tighten this down all the way. And finish it off by tightening these back down one more time. And with these down here out of the way like this, I can go ahead and get the handle in. I'll slide it in here through the bottom, making sure I don't mess with those latch rods. Get the screws started, and now I can attach the latch rods to the handle. And that seemed to be a lot easier because I can just prop up this tailgate, and then these latch rods are right here. And all I have to do is pull them and get them in those slots. And everything is just not working together. So I need to lift up this handle to get it out of the way of this latch, but then I need this latch to move that way. And to do that, I have to release the handle, all while holding this rod to get it into that hole. So I don't even think a third hand would help me. I think it's just a matter of pulling this far enough to get it in there. Oh, I'm so close. So with the handle down, it's a little easier because I don't have to move it as far. I know what I'll do. And I can take my same Phillips head bit, stick it in the latch here, and that'll move that latch rod forward just a little bit. Maybe just enough to help me get it into the handle. And that actually worked perfect. So now I can get this latch rod into this slot, and I'm going to hold it in there while I rotate this plastic piece and clip it around the rod. So it should look like that. And now I just have to do the same with this side. So the same thing here, I've got a driver bit in the latch. I move this over, get the rod in place, and push down on it while I slide this plastic piece around and snap it onto the rod. So with all that in place, I can get my bits out of the latches, and then I can finish tightening down these screws. And hopefully now I have a functioning latch handle. Hey, there we go. So now the latch works as it should. An issue I have with my tailgate though is that I'm missing this piece on that side. So there's a piece inside there that's held on with this screw, and that keeps the tailgate from moving side to side. And so this side's sturdy if I lift up on it, but this side is missing that piece. So if I lift up on it, it's It's got a bit of a rock to it, and that causes the latch to rub up against right here, which is why I have this going on. And when I go to close it, it doesn't close right because it gets caught on that side, and it's causing my latch to not line up right so that I can't just slam it shut. Now I can just hold it there and lift up the handle and then it closes, but that piece there is preventing it from closing the right way. So I can't just slam it shut, which is a disappointment. So I'll have to replace that at some point. But for now, I'm just gonna button it up by putting this plastic cover on. It's got 4 notches on it, 2 at the top and 2 at the bottom. So I'll just get it centered and snap those in. And this one fits way better than my old one did. And that looks pretty good. So now my latch handle works. It'll release the latch. I can put the tailgate down. And when I put it back up, I just have to pull the handle and then I can close it. So while I did fix one problem, I identified another, and I'll have to take care of that at some point. But for now, at least this handle works. And so now I can get this cover back on. I'll get the screws back in. So while I have a new problem to fix, I did get new latches, new tailgate straps, a new handle, and a new handle cover on my truck. There's all the tools I used. This drill came in handy. You don't need an impact drill, but that's what I had right there, so I used that. Used a regular screwdriver bit on the screws on the cover, a T40 bit for all the screws on the handle and the latches, my trim remover tool to pop off the cover, the large screwdriver bits from my impact driver. I'll link some of these bits in the description, that way you don't have to get a whole impact driver just to use these bits, a tiny adjustable wrench to hold onto the screws to get those rusty ones out, a magnetic screw tray which comes in handy, and a plastic trim removal tool. Those bits were 5/16, so I used a 5/16 socket and a 1/4 drive adapter so I could get it in my drill, and some flush cutters to cut my zip ties. But that's all I used to do all of this. You may not even need to use all of that. Your cover might not be attached like mine was, so you may not need those. And you may have a giant screwdriver where you don't need this. I can confirm the zip ties can stay in there. I was afraid they might mess with the latch mechanism and not have it positioned correctly to get that latch to go all the way. But those zip ties worked, so that was a good solution. I would do that the first time, that way you don't have to reinstall it 3 times like I did. But I'm happy to get some old rusty parts off of this truck. I'll have to figure out a solution for that. Hopefully I can source this piece. It's not very big. It's just got 1 screw right here. It may have another one on the bottom. I won't know till I get the whole tailgate off, but hopefully I can just get that part and replace it. I will do that in a separate video. But for now, I'll have to live with not being able to slam this shut. But the new handle does look pretty nice. I hate throwing away good parts, but this old handle and this plastic cover are still in good shape. If you guys want those, let me know. I'll send it to you for free. This is the fully metal handle. The original video that I did, I installed a plastic handle. That one was garbage, so I ended up switching it out for this all metal handle. I don't even think this was failing. I thought it was possible, but I did want to get new latches just in case it was the latches, so I went ahead and got the whole kit. But this still looks like it's in good shape. So if you guys want that, let me know. But that's going to do it for this video, guys. I appreciate you watching. Subscribe to see all the work I'm doing on my truck, and I will catch you guys in the next video.